story of Passover begins with the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt under the Pharaoh. God, through the prophet Moses, sends 10 plagues upon Egypt to convince Pharaoh to release the Israelites. Moses and his brother Aaron confront Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Israelites. When Pharaoh refuses, God sends a series of 10 plagues upon Egypt, each increasingly severe. The plagues include blood, frogs, lice, wild animals, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally, the death of the firstborn. The final plague, the death of the firstborn, prompts Pharaoh to finally free the Israelites. However, they leave so quickly that they don't have time for their bread to rise, which is why during Passover, Jews eat unleavened bread called matzah. Before the final plague, God instructs Moses to tell the Israelites to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. This act is to spare their households from the plague of the death of the firstborn, which strikes all the Egyptian households without such markings. After the final plague, Pharaoh finally relents and allows the Israelites to leave. Later, Pharaoh changes his mind and pursues the Israelites with his army. God miraculously parts the Red Sea, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry land. The sea then closes over the pursuing Egyptian army, drowning them. Passover, as observed by Jews today, commemorates these events, particularly the sparing of the Israelites' firstborn during the 10th plague and their subsequent freedom from slavery in Egypt. It is celebrated with rituals such as the Seder meal, the retelling of the Exodus story, the eating of matzah, and the avoidance of leavened bread. The central ritual of Passover is the Seder, a ceremonial meal held on the first 2 nights of the holiday outside of Israel, and on 1 night in Israel. During the Seder, the story of the Exodus is retold using a book called the Haggadah, which contains prayers, readings, and songs. Throughout Passover, Jews refrain from eating leavened bread, chametz, and instead eat unleavened bread called matzah. Matzah symbolizes the haste with which the Israelites left Egypt, as they did not have time for their bread to rise. The Seder plate contains symbolic foods that represent different aspects of the Passover story, such as bitter herbs, maror, to symbolize the bitterness of slavery, and cheraseh, a mixture of fruit and nuts, to symbolize the mortar used by the Israelite slaves. During the Seder, participants drink 4 cups of wine, each representing a different aspect of redemption. These cups are accompanied by specific blessings and prayers. A piece of matzah called the afikoman is hidden during the Seder and later found by the children. It is then eaten as the final food of the meal. During the Seder, participants recite the 10 plagues that God brought upon Egypt as a means of convincing Pharaoh to release the Israelites. Traditionally, a drop of wine is removed from the cup during the recitation of each plague to symbolize the diminishing joy caused by the suffering of the Egyptians. During Passover, Jews refrain from eating or possessing any leavened products. This includes bread, pasta, cake, and any food containing wheat, barley, rye, oats, or spelt that has not been specifically designated as kosher for Passover. Before Passover begins, Jews conduct a thorough search of their homes to remove any remaining chametz. This is followed by a ritual burning of the chametz on the morning before Passover begins. Passover is not only a commemoration of historical events, but also a celebration of freedom and liberation. It serves as a reminder of the Jewish people's journey from slavery to freedom and their ongoing commitment to justice and equality.